Mhm.
So, but before we get started, Ms. DeMayo, the item that's being added, has that been posted yet?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
It was posted and the correction to the count number was posted as well. The
Okay,
backup was changed and everything is all set. It's the last purchase order.
the last purchase order, okay.
Yes.
Okay, there it is. All right, just be on the safe side, we're gonna go ahead and vote to add it to the agenda because it wasn't on the originally posted agenda, but so we'll go ahead and do that once we get started here. See, looks like we have critical mass. We have at least one other board member, looks like
I'm on.
Dr. Yarbrough's using his
I'm on my
invisibility cloak,
phone.
so
He was here.
his chair's here. All right, so there we go. Okay. So what I was just saying, Dr. Yarbrough, was I'm going to go ahead and once we get started here, make a motion to add to the agenda that purchase order, which is now listed as purchase order 9, since it was not on the original agenda that was posted on Friday. So we'll do that to be on the safe side.
Yes, thank you.
So, okay, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you all for showing up at another lovely Finance and Operations Committee meeting. We will, before we jump into the purchase orders, as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion and that we add to the agenda as an action item what is now listed as purchase order 9 with Imagine Learning LLC to provide digital platforms to support multilingual learners.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Dr. Yarbrough,
Yes.
President Rivera, President Rivera.
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes as well, so that's been added to the agenda. And for anybody following from home, it's listed currently as purchase order number 9. But it was not on the original posting on Friday. Okay, so that said, we'll go ahead and jump into this and start with the information only items. As is typical, is there any one of these 15 information only items that committee members have any questions or comments on? All right. Hearing and seeing none. We'll go ahead and move on into the abstracts. The first one being a school improvement grant. Is Mr. Daya or somebody available to speak on this?
If Christina's not here, I can speak on it.
Yeah.
Oh, she's here.
Coming upstairs, she was transferring over. But yeah, you can, if you want to start, that'll be fine.
Okay, this is hello, good evening, everybody. This is year 3 for the school improvement grant that involves 4 schools. This is one of the 4 schools, Wexler grant. It's a total of about $260,000 with some part-time help and benefits, and pretty much it follows through with a focus on instruction, restorative practices, parent engagement, and some funds for branding and increasing the climate and culture of the building.
I am here, Vivian. I just, for
Oh, there you
whatever
go.
reason, my camera is not working, so.
I'll turn it over to Christina, who took the lead with the principal on this.
Sorry, folks, I don't know what's going on with my camera. So this is the $260,000 that was awarded to Wexler Grant through the SIG grant. Mr. Daya is doing some work with SIG, utilizing the funds to not only do some work around attendance and some field experiences for students, but also focusing on doing some targeted work around literacy improvement, as well as doing some work around supporting math improvement as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the committee? I had none either, so thank you for that. And we'll go on to number 2, which is a Title IIA grant, and this is Ms. Camacho. And as you talk about this, if you could highlight the non-public school aspect that's part of this.
Yep. So the Title IIA is a grant that focuses on the professional development and supplemental support for schools, for Title I schools, and for the non-public schools. This year we have several non-public schools. One of the schools decided not to be part of it, which was the Episcopal one on Blatchley Avenue. But the funds are for strictly professional development. So the public school will get about $809,796.05. And then the non-public schools will get $52,046.95. All of it with the focus of school professional development.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? I had none either. So thank you for that. And we'll move on to the agreements. And the first one is an amendment to the agreement with All Point Home Care. Ms. Jackson.
So this is an amendment to increase the contract enough to be able to provide for an additional student who requires one-to-one nursing care. So
Okay, thank you.
ultimately, there's 3 students that we pay for. The original agreement was for 2, it's now 3, and there may be another in the future, near
Okay.
future.
Any comments or questions? All right, and this is because we're responsible to provide this one-to-one care while they're in the school.
While they're in
Correct.
the school, in order to, yes, per their IEP, they require one-to-one nursing services. These are students who generally get 24-hour care. In order for
Mhm.
us to be able to have them in our schools, we require for them to have one-to-one nursing support.
All right, thank you. Hearing no other questions on that, we'll move on to number 2 with Trifecta Ecosystems. Mr. Manacho.
Hi, good late afternoon. This is from Trifecta Ecosystems. They're providing ongoing year-round maintenance, support, and upkeep services for our aquaponics system. They will also provide professional development, curriculum support, and activity development during their biweekly visits to the school as scheduled.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions for this? Dr. Yarbrough.
Thank you. Just a clarification question. Have we approved this already for this school year with this school, or is this a different?
No, this was a donation that was previously given to the school, and this is our first agreement with them. They're working free of charge.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. DeMayo might be able to look it up. I think this was it HSC?
We have 2 other schools that have the same company, Barnard being one, and I can't think of the other
It's
one, but there's 2 other schools.
It's HSC, Pat.
It is
through-
HSC, okay.
Thank you very much.
And this has the benefit of it was donated through a grant from Trifecta. Is that correct originally? And so this is the upkeep or maintenance on this. Is that correct, sir?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else on this item? Okay, we'll go on to number 3, which is an agreement with Curriculum Associates. Is Ms. Joyner available?
I don't see Ms.
No.
Joyner, but I'll step in. Good
you.
evening, everyone. So this is an agreement with Curriculum Associates. They provide our math curriculum for K through 8, the iReady program. This agreement is specifically targeted for our 4 schools in turnaround in the K-8 model to provide them with additional support. So we will have an iReady consultant come into the schools once a week, work directly with the teachers as well as the leadership team on best practices in mathematics.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions for this? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you. Just a question about the funding in the future. Are we trying to develop staff and phase off of their development, or you think this will continue to be an integral part that we'll need to maintain each year?
So, I mean, that's a little tricky, right? Of course, we're always trying to build the competency of our teachers. And we want them to be able to be independent of the consultants. However, as teaching and learning constantly evolves, we'll probably always need a role for the consultants, but looking at lessening the role, definitely.
Thank you. And do you know if there's any option to also certify in-house, where with this same organization, do they offer kind of like an in-residence program?
I will look into that. That's a great idea.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to number 4, an agreement with Common Ground School for outdoor learning and garden space. Mr. Manacho.
Yes, again, good evening. This is a collaboration to design and install new outdoor learning and garden spaces for students in preschool through grade 8. The staff will also receive technical support and professional development opportunities to help educators maximize outdoor learning experiences to deepen the academic and social emotional learning for students.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none on this item either, so thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to number 5, an agreement with Eli Whitney Museum. Ms. Joseph Lumpkin.
I'm going to turn this over to Christian Tabares, as he is our after-school coordinator.
All right,
Yes,
thank
good
you.
evening, everyone. So Eli Whitney will be supporting after-school programming at 3 sites: Barnard, Salentano, and Wexel Grant. They'll be working with 15 students at a time, so a total of 45 students that will be serviced through this contract. A lot of hands-on STEM-based programming is what Eli Whitney will be providing to our students.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Tabares. So I support this award. I just have a question for the future. So again, in talking about funding, do we expect the funding to continue for after-school programs? And if not, you know, what are we thinking about what we can still offer, and perhaps what this contractor is thinking their relationship with the school district might be and how they might fund it?
Yes, this is definitely, oh, sorry, Gemma.
Nope, go ahead, Chris.
Well, this is definitely a thought and a conversation that we have on an ongoing basis, just because we know that ESSER funding is coming to an end, and we have to go out and actually reach out to other grantees and apply for other grants. And we do have some entitlement grants that support after school, but of course it's not enough to support every initiative that we currently do have. So we are just exploring our options and seeing how we can tap into different grants and just the different pots of money that are entitled to the district to continue these services.
And do we know whether Eli Whitney is going after their own funding and grants on behalf of the services they want to provide?
That I do not know, but I could definitely reach out to our organizations and ask that and include that as a part of our process when we actually reach out to these organizations.
Okay, thank you for your work.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that. That might be, especially as, funds contract from the COVID funds. I did just review some grants for a different organization, and part of what we were seeing were some groups teaming up to seek the funding together. So, and it made for good grant proposals that, kind of checked a lot of the boxes in terms of completeness, as well as also having somebody to help with the workload of putting the things together. Might also open up to other avenues of funding that we might not be aware of because they're not typical for schools, but might be more typical for other nonprofits. So I'll just throw that out there for what it's worth. This question that I had was not specific to this one, but it's specific to funding after school programs. So I just, did some quick calculations on the cost per student for these, and understanding that the different programs, some might have consumable items like kits that then are used. Some might have literally consumable items because there's snacks or meals or things provided. This maybe is a philosophical thing. How do you all look at the cost per student or the value for a program while you're ranking or evaluating the request for qualifications? Just wondering how that factors in as a weight.
So we look at the services provided, as you mentioned. So does it come with just the things that you said, consumable? How is the model established in terms of the number of students per individuals? So it is structured individually based on the services that are provided and within a reasonable cost. So there are at times that we go back and we negotiate the prices. So it may come, so just hypothetically, if we see something that feels off, again, hypothetically, let's say $20 per student per day, we would want to have a conversation with our provider to see if we could bring that number down closer to hypothetically $15 per student per day. But it depends. If we're working with a provider that is providing nutrition or culinary services, that's a different lift than a provider who is providing straight tutoring supports.
Okay, so it is a factor in what you all are evaluating and looking at, and it sounds from what you're saying that you're looking for the biggest bang for the buck, but also unique experiences that some of these programs can provide. So I guess I would imagine there's a balance in there.
Yes, and Christian can tell you that we're always negotiating to get the best possible deal that we could.
All right. Well, hearing and seeing nothing else on this particular item, we'll move on to number 6, which is an agreement with Arte.
So Arte is also supporting various after-school sites, FAME, John C. Daniels, Truman, and Troop. At John C. Daniels, Truman, and Troop, they will be working 2 days a week, while at FAME, they'll be working 4 days a week. There was a bigger need of community partnerships and just support over at FAME. So we were able to allocate more sessions over to FAME compared to the other schools. The other schools will be taking advantage of other community partnerships coming in. But Arte is an organization that has been in the district for some time, providing various courses and classes that enhance critical thinking by providing them with various sessions of arts and crafts, cultural dance instruction, sports and physical activities, and language arts. So just exposing our students to various topics and various cultural aspects to enhance their active learning skills is key to this program and effort.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either, so let's go ahead and move on to number 7, an agreement with Little Scientists.
All right, continuing on with Little Scientists, they'll be servicing 2 sites, Hill Central and Lincoln Bassett. At one of the biggest needs at those sites is they wanted to support more science and STEM-based programming. And Little Scientists is a pioneer in that in New Haven, and they've provided these services already at these sites. So the principals, the building leaders, and the students are all aware of who Little Scientists are. and the types of services they will be providing, and they would like them back in their building this year.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. Let's talk about number 8, which is an agreement with Sport Academy for after-school tutoring.
Correct. So Sport Academy will be providing services over at Brennan Rogers, Roberto Clemente, and Webster Grant schools. The unique thing about Sports Academy is they're not only just a program that provides sport enrichment programs, but they also provide chess and programs. And they tie in a lot of mathematical skills within that, the chess and the basketball component as well. And just various life lessons and mentorship opportunities are provided through the program. So it's an array of services that are provided during one session, and the students engage well, and the parents, teachers, and everybody involved in the school respond very well to Sports Academy, and we're happy to have them back this year.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions on this one? I had none on this one either. As we move into the next one, which is an agreement number 9, this is the first of several, which is the outreach and case management for Tier 4 and Tier 5 chronic absenteeism. And we have several of these, and my understanding is what changes is the number of students might change, but the amount per block of students is the same. So there's a lot of similarities, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, I mean, we can obviously talk about each of these individually, but if we could maybe with this first one, just explain how this is, because if I recall, it's just as background for if anybody doesn't remember, we started to look at these in January, I think, of last year. It seems like there were more of them, and the idea was that this was something that was being tried to see how this works, and that you were trying the model and you were trying out the organizations. And so now we have the next round of this. So if you could just talk about that.
Yes, and we're very excited. I mean, we don't point to just one thing that occurred here, but we know that collectively we were able to reduce our high rates of chronic absenteeism from that 58.2% to the 36.6% where we stood at the end of 2023. And we believe that the engagement of these community partners played a big role in helping us to achieve that. There will be other partners that will be asking to join later on. It's important to say some partners may come on a little later in the coming weeks and the coming months, but these are partners who are assisting us in reaching some of our hardest to reach students through community outreach, family outreach, offering of supports. These are mostly grassroots, I like to say indigenous-based organizations that know our communities well, they know our students well, they understand the needs and experiences of our students, and they have supported our staff as an extension to our work by doing tremendous outreach and supports that would have been a little difficult for us to do on our own. So it's established based on students who have had extreme absences last year as well as this year. We're starting a little early to mitigate those issues. And we've established a payment structure that would allow us for no one organization to be working with more than 50 students at a time, but we can certainly rotate many more students depending on how that caseload moves along. One of the things that we learned from our last experience is that an organization may have a student outreach for 3 sessions, and we begin to see improvements. We begin to see the students and families becoming more engaged. So we're able to rotate that family and student off and bring on a new family and a new student to support. But all in all, these grassroots organizations have done a phenomenal job for us. We've put in very strong accountability measures in that Their data is reviewed regularly, so we are able to see from field notes the type of outreach, and we're able to measure from student behavior and family behavior, but ultimately student behavior in terms of seeing that the child patterns of improvement and behavior, patterns of attendance and behavior are improving. So we're grateful that these organizations are willing to come back to us as we went through a rough first time with the pilot last year, but at the end of the day, we saw massive improvements to which we can contribute to all efforts, including the community outreach.
All right. Is there any questions about the kind of the overall model? Dr. Yarborough?
Just a question for in the future, for us to see the data from the model that you have so far, please, so we can see how it's working and see what you're describing.
What kind of data would you be looking for, Dr. Yarborough?
Well, some of what was described in terms of maybe how many touch points a particular student has had, so it can be scrubbed, not necessarily a student's name, but to see how that's translated into either their involvement in after-school program or maybe their attendance going up, for us to be able to make a case for future funding and investment, or for us to be able to expand and contract. I do believe and think, best practices can come out of this as insights are gained and lessons are learned and things can be refined. So I would like to see and hear some of the stories from the case notes, but also to just see number-wise, how we're making progress. And it would be, I don't know when or where this might be appropriate, but it would be great to continue to highlight our Indigenous organizations, community partners that are really making a dent on the attendance side in a way that's important for learning and important for our district, to be able to acknowledge them and celebrate them.
Okay. I'm certainly supportive of that myself. It'd be, good to see and hear that. I'm just wondering when and where would be the best context for that. Two things that come to mind is, one, obviously we could have it as a discussion item at this meeting, or it could be part of the next time the superintendent in the district provides to the board information on attendance. That might be a nice part of that presentation, because that's some of the things that it's a major thing that's being done in the district. It's a costly thing to increase attendance, and that would have the benefit of the whole board.
Yes, I agree. And I know the district is doing other notes, like a note went out today, just letting people know about how the holidays come up and students miss days for attendance. But I think that's a great reminder for families. So I imagine that all these things working together are really having a positive impact.
Okay.
Indeed. And so I'll just name, I have them here alphabetical. So it's Abundant Harvest, Outreach, Community Engagement, Alpha and Omega Group, Connecticut Violence Intervention Program, Kids Craze, the Monk Center for Academic Enrichment, Sport Academy, and Urban Community Alliance, again with other organizations coming on board in the near future.
Okay. So I think my request would be, along with building on what Dr. Yarborough said, is that maybe, I can't remember the frequency we were going to be looking at attendance data with the board. I would assume it's maybe after each marking period. That seems like a natural time, but I don't know what the frequency, I don't recall that there was a frequency established or shared with us, but if this could be part of that, and not just part of it like we're doing it, but something that gets into it a little bit, because that helps tell the story. I don't know, even if it's an addendum to that, whatever the presentation is made in the meeting, I think that serve some of that. Am I characterizing it, Dr. Yarbrough? Does that sound sufficient for your needs?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
All right, so something below the surface that kind of gets to, and I don't know if the data is suggestive in, like, you know, I would imagine if somebody was to model this out, it might say, you know, it takes 12 interactions to yield something. I don't know if we're having that level of detail, but I certainly understand that an issue around a tier 4 or 5 chronic absenteeism, there's going to be many, many things and a lot of things that go into re-engaging a kid.
We'll do the best we can, and we will work to get data to you that would be acceptable and help to tell the story of the success of these organizations.
So I have a final question about the overall thing, and then we're going to buzz through, just name each of these and just make sure that nobody has any individual questions about specific organizations that are doing this. Is this the kind of thing, like, you know, occasionally one could imagine a situation where we have students that are disengaged in the district, maybe for some time. Would this be one of these groups be a candidate to reach out to parents or guardians for this, or is it primarily for people that are like already hitting tier 4, tier 5 this year? I'm wondering how encompassing this is in terms of some of the things that we could imagine.
Yes, so our community partners are one of the interventions that we have for students who may have deep disengagement from schools. And so oftentimes we have found that the community partners and their team have stronger relationships with our families and our students that we may not have been able to establish for a variety of reasons. And oftentimes, yes, you know, whether it's a June Boy who's written a couple of books now from Connecticut VIP, or, you know, someone from another organization that just lives within the neighborhood, within the community, who is there every day, they're able to have that contact in a way that we are not able to. And so, yes, there are those stories of partners being able to reach even oftentimes the most severe disengaged student in a way that is more effective than we are able to do.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that. I've also, you know, over several years on the board, know that there's also oftentimes, not often, there's occasionally sometimes where parents are not connecting well with the district. And so there's some disconnects there, and some of these groups might help re-engage parents and get kids back in school for that as well.
And
imagine
that is
I'll think of some situations where it could be useful.
Yeah, where they're often, what we see is these partners are often able to have insights with these partners. They have trusting relationships with these students and families, and they're able to give us insights to be able to better serve the families and to welcome our students back to our community.
Thank you. What I'm going to do now, just to be complete, is I'm going to name off the agreement numbers along with the names of the organizations. I'm just going to buzz through them, and then I'm going to ask the committee if they have any comments or questions specific to any one of those. Feel free to ask whatever questions you need, but the ones I'm referring to now would be number 9, agreement with Sport Academy; number 10, agreement with Alpha to Omega Management; number 11, agreement with Connecticut Violence Intervention Program; number 12, an agreement with Abundant Harvest Outreach Community Engagement; number 13, which is Kids Craze; number 14 is Monk Center; and number 15 is Different. We'll come back to number 15. Urban Community Alliance is number 16. And that encompasses, I think, all of the tier 4 and 5 chronic absenteeism. Are there any comments or questions about any one of those items? All right. So we'll drop back and hit number 15, which is an agreement with Christian Community Action for services around students experiencing homelessness.
Yes. So Christian Community Action is one of our community partners that helps us address in-house a series of resources, community-based resources, as well as short and short-term shelter. By way of background, last year this time we had about 281 students who were identified as homeless. This year we have 533 students identified by November of 2023 compared to that number, which was November of 22. Last year overall, we had just over 700 students identified. Our staff is predicting that we will probably hit around 1,100 students identified. So these partners are becoming even more critical to expanding our work. We've also been able to use grant funding to increase part-time staff, just to be able to increase our calling power and our outreach to these vulnerable families. We're seeing that the majority of the families that are within that 533 students are double up. They're living with friends and families. We're seeing a substantial number of those unaccompanied youth. These are students who they are sent across the southern border, often by themselves, with naming a family member here where they can stay. We see students who are runaways, LGBTQ students who are dealing in difficult situations, living with family members. So those newcomers, multilingual students are within that group, and it is we're beginning to see a serious uptick in the number of families who are identified as McKinney-Vento and are homeless. So Christian Community is one of our community partners that whom we have reached out to help support the needs, the growing needs of these families.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions related to this item? Dr. Yarborough.
Yes, just appreciation for having, I mean, we're hearing numbers, but I know for every number is a story and a family and a name. So thank you for just providing some color for our students who are experiencing homelessness and just the different reasons why. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll just second that. I'll also note that there was an item in the information only items that was also some funding going towards the Pride Center, since LGBTQ plus students show up higher in homelessness research. So
yes,
or in the numbers. So it's glad the district is on this as best we can be.
yeah. And he couldn't be here today, but just want to do a shout out to Danny Diaz and to Abigail Rivera, who are the leads on our in-house team supporting this work. So just wanted to just make sure that they are recognized for the hard work that they're doing.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, it looks like agreements 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 are school readiness program related. So Ms. Valencia Diaz, did we talk about these as a group if they're all the same, and then we'll deal with them individually as needed?
Okay, I'm here on behalf of Vanessa. And items number 17 through 20, we'll take it as a group as they are, basically, cost of living adjustments, so they are COLA. And as everyone knows, New Haven, is the pass-through for this. So the rates are set by the state of Connecticut, and they vary, as to whether the, program has full day, full year, school day, or, part day. So the first one is with the Friends Center for Children, and it's for $46,760. That is allocated based on 60 student slots, full day, full year, and this impacts approximately 6 staff members.
All right.
The next one is Lila Day. And Lila Day has school day and part day. So theirs looks a little different. There's 18 school day slots and 4 part day slots. The COLA adjustment is $11,004. The next one is St. Aidan's Preschool, and that is for $38,967. They have 50 slots, and that impacts approximately 6 staff members. The next one is St. Andrew's Child Care Center, and that is for $28,056. That is also full day, full year school readiness slots for 36 students. And that impacts approximately 8 staff members. So those are all school readiness, cost of living adjustments with rates set forth by the state. When we look at Agreement 21, that is the agreement with Little Schoolhouse in the amount of $160,632. This is the Priority School Readiness Agreement. So this contractor has 8 slots, and the rate is $743.66 per child. There are approximately 4 full-time staff members associated with this, but this is a priority grant. This isn't just COLA.
All right. Are there any comments or questions about any of those numbers 17 through 21? All right. I did not have any questions for those either.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to number 22, an agreement with Custom Insights. Is Dr. Baker available or somebody?
I'm bringing her over right now. She's coming on.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello. So we're up to the agreement with Custom Insights for the climate survey.
Yes. So the climate survey in the past, we've gone with Panorama for the last few years. We actually had to put it out to bid this year, and they did not score high. They actually scored 77% out of 100. And so there's quite a few reasons why, and I'm sure you guys would like to know what those reasons are.
Sure.
One is that they were outbid. First of all, Panorama was charging us $80,000 for the surveys, and this new company is charging us $50,000 for the same amount of surveys. However, also, we've been having problems with our engagement for the surveys, and the new company actually will allow us to administer the surveys via cell phones, which I'm really hopeful that will help us with our engagement with our parents. And let's see, also, one of the main contributing factors for Panorama not scoring high was because we needed Panorama to translate in the language of Pashto. And they had told us, I think it was last year, that we had that as part of our survey. Before the survey, we realized they did not have it, and we actually had to pay someone to do the translation in order to get it in time for the survey, which was an additional cost that we didn't have. Luckily, Jessica Hexia was able to get the money, but so that was another issue. And also, so Panorama was charging us $20,000 to print surveys, and so I had asked, like the year before last, how much, what's the return on that? We were printing $20,000 worth of surveys when I first got here. The return was 120 surveys back from families, a waste of money. So last year I worked with Panorama to reallocate some of those money for professional development. And so that's what they did. But they were supposed to allow us to be able to print our own surveys based on the languages that we needed per school. Because Panorama, if we ordered 10 Spanish surveys from Martinez, we couldn't just order 10. We'd have to order 10 from all 41 schools. And so those were actually big cost items that we couldn't afford. And we don't need to buy 120 or $20,000 worth of surveys at schools that don't need particular languages. This new company, not only will they provide us with the new languages, all the languages that we asked for, but they will also allow us to be able to print them from the schools. So if each school needs 5 or something, they can print 5 of those surveys. Panorama had promised us that we would be able to get that last year. Schools were calling me in the middle of our survey, and I realized that even myself, I wasn't able to print, and they weren't able to correct it in time. So those were some of the reasons why they did not score high. But I have been in contact with them. They are aware, because I'm concerned that the new company, we can't use the exact questions, but they have the categories. We will be working with them along with the Climate Survey Committee to review, to make sure we have those categories so that we are still able to get somewhat of some trending or comparable data. This new company does allow for us to customize, so we will still be able to keep our LGBTQ questions in. And I have reached out to Panorama, and they are willing to work with us with the remaining of the money that we're saving from the climate surveys to help us provide professional development on the results of, on how for our staff to interpret the results, because this new company doesn't do that.
All right. Thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions related to this? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, Dr.
Yes, Dr. Baker, I just appreciate all of that. I appreciate the review, going through the process, and being critical around what the company provided, what they were not able to provide, and being willing to go with a new company, even recognizing the differences between the two, and then utilizing the remaining funds to engage Panorama and what they think they can deliver in terms of the professional development for interpreting the new results. So yeah, I just appreciate this process. And I imagine there might be some hiccups and additional learning curves, but thank you for kind of taking the risk and yeah, just going through the process and coming out and being willing to make a change and keeping the relationship with the Panorama vendor, even as we establish this new relationship, to let them know, here's the feedback from my experience. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I agree with all that. It's a great example of looking and trying something new and saving money and getting better services. So it reminds vendors, don't get too comfortable. Got to keep
Thank you.
providing. So thank you. Next, we'll go to, this is a particularly fun one. This is an agreement with GWWO Architects. Mr. Finelli.
Good evening, everybody. So as we all know, the New Haven Public Schools will be adding a new adult ed facility on Bassett Street. We are awarding the architectural services to GWWO. This was determined via RFP. This was determined by myself, the city engineer, Giovanni, and the adult ed principal, Michelle Minora. GWWO was selected unanimously between all of us based on their background and due to the fact that they have developed and designed a couple of adult ed buildings in Connecticut. We're very excited, to work with them. We feel that they are going to bring a futuristic development approach to the potential new adult ed building here in New Haven.
Right. Any comments or questions? Mr. Lamb, you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. Just that this award is only for the first 2 phases. There are 3 additional phases that we will be bringing back to the board as additional funding becomes available. But this was through the $500,000 grant that was received into the district several months ago, related to the soft costs and design fees with this project.
Thank you for that. Dr. Yarbrough, you had something?
Yes, just want to thank this team for their work, and also in the documentation, providing the scope of work and the description that helps me and perhaps others to see what are the different phases and what is the work that will be completed for this investment. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. It's good to see. I know a lot of progress has been happening behind the scenes, and it's also good to see this happening as well. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay, hearing nothing else on this, we'll go to number 24, which is an amendment to the agreement with Innovative Engineering Solutions.
So we're asking for a $40,000 change order increase to our current on-call engineering services through IES. This increase will provide more funding to support the increase in HVAC projects that we are completing. There's various projects currently out to bid. We're adding 6 more HVAC projects this year that we will be using ESSER funds for. So we know we have to work rather quickly. Plus, we're going to be working with IAS to develop a design for the HVAC grant that we are currently applying for Fairhaven, High School in the Community, Lincoln Bassett, Catherine Brennan, and Edgewood.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either, so let's go ahead and move on to the amendment to the agreement with Spiegel and Partners.
So same thing, continuing with development, we're asking for an additional 20 to support the amount of work that we have been doing with Spiegel's Partners. This past month alone, we are going to be putting out RFPs, if they're not currently out, I'm sorry, today, for the Edgewood Nurses Station handicap ramp, the Worcester Street department head offices, the Sound School ADA ramps, the Ross Woodward new school-based health clinic. They're actually working with IES on the dehumidification and design for the career pool, which will be going out this month. We'll be looking at adding a new cross wheelchair lift, plus various other projects that we'll be doing within ESSER, which one of them is the new prototype science labs that are in development at Cross Hill House and Sound. So in order to support all this, we need additional funding.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions on this? I had none either. Next one looks like just a fund code change, but it's an amendment to the agreement with Pino, Nunez, and Biggs. Mr. Lamb?
Thank you very much, sir. This is a a change in funding source after working with the finance department. We identified that this account needed to be changed to a different funding source. There is no change in the amount of funding, only the funding account number.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. We'll go on to number 27, an agreement with Scholastic Education Solutions. Ms. Toussaint?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. This is for Scholastic Education Solutions. Each of our 28 elementary schools has a Scholastic Education library that the teachers share among the school, and the teachers are very much missing a few components to this Scholastic Education library. They have the physical books. However, what I am hearing is that both teachers, coaches, and I'm hearing this from some principals as well, is that they're very much missing the digital component, which includes the digital maintenance of the library, where it keeps track of who's taking books out, who's bringing books back, and also organizing the inventory of that library. In addition, this cost involves the Lit Camp and Lit Pro, which provides an extensive online library from Scholastic that students seem to be extraordinarily engaged with the books that Scholastic provides. It increases students' time reading independently. It's motivating. Thus, it builds their reading stamina and their reading skills over time.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you for bringing this forward for the board and connecting with the different schools and staff. A question about the cost breakdown. What is the amount that is for, I guess, tracking the inventory of the books when they're checked out? And what is the part that is for the, is it digital books from Scholastic? Yeah,
I can get the exact breakdown for you, but I want to say that it's 20,000 for the tracking and the rest is for the digital online. That's very fuzzy numbers, but I can definitely get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
I do have that in the quote.
Okay, thank you. Is there a particular advantage for getting both through the same company? Because I can imagine we would, well, I don't like having to renew software or services because there's just an ongoing expense that's never going to end. But I can imagine that we may want to choose a different vendor who would provide ebooks, but we would want to still be able to track our inventory. I guess I'm just wondering like why they're linked. And is it district wide or is it just a few schools?
Right now, all 28 schools have the actual physical libraries, and they would like the digital component. So the digital component, of course, has many more books than would be provided with the physical library. There are tens of thousands of books in the digital component, but you're absolutely right. There are lots of digital platforms for books. This happens to be one that the teachers find to be extraordinarily beneficial to the students and motivating. We can give students lots of access to different online platforms, but if this one happens to motivate them, it's one that they gravitate towards and they will actually read.
Okay, thank you. And currently, the physical books, there is no digital management of those right now.
Not right now. They had it in years past, and we tried to go without it for a few months, a short period of time, and they are saying that they very much miss that piece.
Okay, thank you. And are these books, this book room, is it within a classroom?
No,
or is it for
it's in whether it be a book room, it's in a place in the building where all teachers have access.
Okay, but it's different from the school's library.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. If you could provide something about that cost breakdown, it could be just
Yep.
as simple as from the invoice. And if you could send
Absolutely.
it to the committee before the end of the week, that'd be great. That way, if there's
I could
questions, we
probably
can.
send it. I could probably send it before the end of this meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on then to number 28, which is an agreement with Houghton Mifflin. Also, Ms. Toussaint.
Yes, thank you. This is for HMH coaches to come into our 4 priority schools, our turnaround schools, excuse me, once per week for full days to provide coaching and ongoing support to build the capacity of the staff within those 4 buildings. So Brennan Rogers, Clemente, Troop, and Wexler Grant. All of our buildings currently have a half-day coach that comes in quarterly from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt to provide ongoing systematic coaching 4 times a year. However, with our turnaround schools, we want to give them that additional support that their data shows that they desperately are in need of. So providing them 1 full day per week of a job embedded coach with someone who truly is an expert in the new core program and helping that school to roll it out, helping the literacy coach on site, providing that person with the ongoing professional development. I will be there as much as I possibly can at each of those schools so that I am learning the new program from those experts as well. Administrators are encouraged to sit in on those coaching sessions. And of course, our classroom teachers will benefit. And in the end, every student that works with those teachers over time will benefit from the new learning.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, I greatly appreciate the documentation that you provided. So thank you for that. A question about the funding source. I think it says that the Read to Write grant is the pending source of funds. So I wanted to know, has it come in and have we started this service already in October?
We, well, originally I tried to get it on F&O in October, but I missed it. So that was on me. However, because we had the quarterly coaching already set up for these 4 schools, they have had some coaching from HMH that was already taken care of through other means, just as all of the schools have started their quarterly coaching. We're actually coming to the end of that cycle right now. So the short answer is yes, they have seen a coach. And the other part of your question, I'm sorry.
The Right to Read grant. It says
the Right to Read grant. Yes, that's been approved.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Hear nothing else on that. We'll go on to number 29, an agreement with Resi Notes. Mr. Harmon.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everybody. This is an agreement with a provider of still and video videography over the course of this school year to produce classroom photography, event photography, and videos that support communications from the superintendent as well as principals in support of the school choice process. This is a firm that has come highly recommended from a couple of sources, and you know, I should say we make a lot of use of amateur photography for a lot of purposes in the district, but there are occasions where it really helps to have a professional eye. And I think, so what we've done is bundle a few of those projects together and are proposing this contract with Resinotes.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, also appreciate the documentation. I think you ready to sneeze. I think the imagery, the images there make a case for themselves in terms of the value of this particular vendor or contractor and what they might be able to provide the district that is in addition to what is already provided. So thank you for putting that together and spelling it out some.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I'll just also note that this was done as an RFP through city purchasing processes, and that's how you came to the selection of this vendor.
Yes.
I agree. The sample photos that they provided look great. So, all right. Okay, we're moving along, sort of. We're moving to the purchase orders. The first one is with Frontline Technologies, Ms. Flegler.
Good afternoon. I didn't think I was going to be called until, good evening, till like 9 o'clock tonight. So I was working. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So this is another Frontline Technologies contract renewal. It is year 4. This is the contract renewal for Frontline Central Solutions. Now, Frontline Central Solutions is the platform we use for our virtual onboarding. And so this is how when we onboard new hires, we send them virtual onboarding packets so they complete electronically and send back to us. And it's also our recruiting and hiring solution, how we embed them into our system once they submit their onboarding packet. And this is the last year for this renewal. So when we did the implementation 4 years ago, we did it in a 4-part series, and this is year 4.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? Dr.
Yes.
Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Flegler. Two things. One is I'm a little challenged. I think it says we've been using this service since July 2023, but it's just coming forward now. So that's one point.
So
yeah,
I can respond to that. We received the purchase order on October 30th, and so I had to scramble to plead with Ms. DeMayo and Selena to get on this one, because I actually was on the last F&O meeting to respond. What I believe happening, and I actually checked with the finance department, I believe that they were sending this to the IT department, and I'm not sure where it went to, but it should go directly to my attention. And normally even the last purchase order, when I received it came from the IT department. So I think they were sending a purchase order to the wrong department. They put it all in one instead of designated to which areas, like, the special ed has a portion of it. We use Frontline for a lot of different platforms. And so I think there was a confusion as to where the purchase order, the invoice was sent. But I received it on October 30th and immediately processed it to get on this F&O in order to present to the U and the board.
yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Understood. Thank you. I think there's a slightly over $4,000 cost increase for this renewal. Do we know what accounts for that increase, like where it goes in terms of the services provided?
It's just an annual increase over, each year is a slight increase, and it's for the same services, no additional services. During our last finance and operations meeting, Mr. Wilcox just asked if we're looking at other vendors. And what I shared with Mr. Wilcox, I don't know if you were at the last meeting, I don't think you were, is that Frontline Education Platform is an application that's used by a lot of public school districts. We can certainly look at other vendors and see what impact would be, but I can tell you it would be a huge lift for the district because it interacts with other school districts, and it is a platform that is used for not only for recruiting and hiring and for virtual onboarding, this is fairly new for us. This is our year 4 for the recruitments for hiring Frontline Central for the onboarding piece. And now that we really got a swing of it, it's a platform that I think interacts well with other school districts as well as our employees. And I think right now is working for our needs. And if we decided to go to another vendor, the capacity to transfer all that data over to a new system and have it able to communicate with Munis would may be challenging and may be more costly, but we can certainly get close to find out. But it would be a lift to transfer this information over to another company without knowing what they can offer us, what we're currently getting now.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Let's talk about number 2, which is a purchase order with active internet technology. Ms. Herrera?
Good evening, folks. How are you?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. So this is Blackboard. It says final site because there was an acquisition during last year. It, just so you know, it came to the board now because we were having issues with the vendor and the name. So finance had set it up in one way and we couldn't pay it out of Blackboard. We needed to pay it as final site. So this is the website for the district. We're trying to get the whole district to become very cohesive. As you know, in the past, the websites of the schools were all look different. So we're trying to become cohesive by encumbering all the websites of the schools into one location and one service. Also, this includes the parent link, the communication with the parents and the students. And this is part of that. And it's $126,328 that we're asking for.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you. I did have a question about it starting in July and coming to us now. Can you explain a little bit more? I think I heard you say that you were trying to pay it under one name, but the company changed names, or?
Correct. It was Blackboard. And then when we submitted, originally when they submitted the information to us, it was Blackboard. So then they had an acquisition, and then they send us an invoice for final site. Accounts payable will now pay to final site when it's supposed to be Blackboard. So they had to collect all the documents from the company and going through all nonprofit and all these things because we had to provide things of our own. And once they finished that, then and only then would they pay it. So they just settled accounts payable in downtown New Haven. They just settled it, and they said it was okay to move forth because we had to make sure that this was paid to final site. Because what happened in the past was during this, the last time we paid it as Blackboard, and final site continued to send me a bill. And then they said that we weren't paying, but we paid it under the Blackboard. So that turned into a bit of a delay on its own. So that's why this happened.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
And my second question is, I think it's listed as a sole source, or you're waiting, or there's a pending sole source letter. One of my questions is, what makes a sole source? And I'm wondering if we need to wait for that sole source letter before officially passing it at the next board meeting.
The sole source letter, what makes it a sole source, this is actually a partner to Power School. This is one of the partners to Power School. This is the only partner that they have to actually provide the service through Power School. So that is what makes it a sole source. In the last, I would say, since I've been here and prior to that, I looked up at the documents. They all listed as a sole source because of the fact that this is a partnership and this is software that links into Power School. And it's the preferred software for Power School. And that's how it's been listed. The only challenge I had was that when I requested the letter, we could not find, they could not locate one. And as you know, there's a new purchasing agent down at 200 Orange. So she it's supposed to be working on it so she could give me the document.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So my request would be is, if I don't know when you talked to this person last, but if we could, if you could reconnect with that person and then let us know by Friday if the sole source letter has been available, that might help them.
All right. Thank you.
If it's a something that's happened in the past and is likely to happen now, then maybe that'll help get that taken care of.
Will do.
You can use us. Say they want it. Okay. Hearing nothing else on this item, let's go on to number 3, which is a purchase order with Total Communications.
May I address number 3 and number 4 together?
Please,
Because
please,
they're
please.
similar.
Yes.
So number 3 and number 4, they're purchase orders. As you note, one of them says TCOM project, which is the IT department's projects. And those are the overall district projects that IT heads. So when we have big plans, structural, any kind of school rewiring, anything like that, that's what that is for. So we allocated $50,000 in the past. This and the next, which is number 4, which is an additional $50,000, those are the repairs for the schools. So when the schools need jacks and wiring done for repairs, any kind of additional wiring, ports that is necessary, because we have added many people to other rooms, or even if the repair, just plain breakage, you know, things break, we need to repair them. And the reason I separated them this year was because in the past it was all one big purchase order of $100,000+ that kept being added on to. But when it comes to physically, right? So when I look at the accounting of it, and if somebody asks me what did I do with the money school-wise and the district, it is easier to separate it now than it is for me to peck and hunt through the whole purchase order and tell you what happened at the school level and what happened at the district level. So that's what those 2 purchase orders are.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions on purchase orders number 3 or 4 with Total Communications? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you for walking us through that. Question is just about also the start date on these 2 back in July. And I guess when I see a start date, when I see the full year, I don't actually know if the resources are being spent over the full year or they were done in the summer and we're just seeing it now. So my question is, has the work already begun? And
some of it, especially emergency.
Would you say?
Emergency work, yes. Not everyday work, but emergency. Anything that has been asked to be done is only emergency work. Actually, a lot of my stuff's still waiting because we were waiting for this. And the reason these just came up was because they were thought to have been placed before, but they weren't. So
thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'll just say my standard thing, that the dates matter in terms of, we don't have a policy in place that says thou shalt not do this, but it just does create risk for the district. If a majority of the board decided for some reason to say no to something, then that would be problematic. So good to be avoided.
I had an additional question.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. For Total Communications, I think we've seen it before, but I don't know if it was past year or this current year, but do we have any existing contracts with them? And do you know what is kind of the cumulative total that we're contracted with for them?
we have a state contract with them. And when it comes to other projects, bigger projects, we go out to bid. Even though we have a state contract, we go out to bid anything that I consider to be, or the district considers to be big purchases. We go out to bid. I would say we're in this year, we're probably about 1.7, because $1.5 million of that is a data center that we're creating. It's these two, and these are working order purchase orders. In other words, even though $50,000 have been allocated, does not mean we're going to spend the $50,000. That is what we're holding. So, and just to further let you know, how I came up with these numbers is I look at the last 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and I average out what has been the cost of what we have spent to the last 3 years, and this is the average.
Okay, thank you. And so for 1.7, okay, so they have a big chunk of, I guess our technology work.
Yes, they take care of all our Cisco, all our network. We do all our purchases, and data center that we're going to be setting in Fame. That is the biggest portion. And again, that went out to bid.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to number 5, which is SHI International.
HSI International, that's the Microsoft. We have a CREC contract, which is an educational contract. If you know, last year, I believe it was in the 80s. This year it's $100,000. We added additional data space and some licensing for the network. Also, we did some SQL servers, and if you know, there's Power BI licenses that have been added, and A1 and A3 licenses for the staff and the students.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, just want to thank you for the state link to this contractor and then also the documentation. For me, it could help me to see kind of more clearly where the funds are going for this particular Microsoft vendor. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Agreed. Okay, next on the list is utility communications, number 6. And this is listed as Chief Reddish.
Chief is not on the call, so I'll be taking this one.
All right, Mr. Lamb.
So this is under state contract with utility communications to provide system licensing for our milestone servers, which is all of our video cameras. This is our annual renewal of the licenses for operating those systems.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? All right. I did not have any on this either. So we'll go ahead and talk about number 7, which is Daleen flooring. Mr. Finelli.
Yeah, so in continuing to upgrade and to meet the requirements of the NIAC accreditation, one of the issues that was called out was the gymnasium floor at Hill House. So we are going to do a full strip, bringing it down to the original surface, 3 poly overlays, all new lines per CIC ruling, and all new logos. We're looking to do this sometime between now and the end of the year. We are working with Eric, the AD, a couple of the gym teachers, and the school principal.
And this is distinct. This is the Hill House Gymnasium, not the Field House, which happens.
Yes.
The field.
Yeah, this is the actual gymnasium. Has nothing to do with the Field House. And this, like I said, this was a call out on the NIAC checklist.
Yeah, I just mentioned that because we've had several conversations about flooring in.
Yes.
So just to make the distinction there.
Yep.
Comments or questions? Yes, Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, just thank you for providing a breakdown of what is going to be done in the work. So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I'll just say, having seen a brand new like gymnasium floor with everything just perfect and crisp, it is kind of amazing what weathered floorboards can turn into when professionals
absolutely.
and work their skills. So
yes.
I'm sure that'll be quite satisfying to have done for the folks that used it.
Mr. Wilcox?
Okay, number 8 is
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr.
And to that point, I don't know what the connection is between facilities and education, but any time-lapse photography or snapshots of before and after, I'm assuming would be very of great educational value and of interest to students, to not just know the before and after, but even the process. So I don't know if that's something that's already done, but for the amount of work that we get done in the district, I think that would be pretty cool.
And it's funny you say that, because actually I did have conversations with both Principal Peggy Moore and Matt Brown to bring in any possible photography students in to take pictures of before and after. I do myself have pictures of before and after, and it would be great to see students get involved, because to note too, we actually did a full paint job in both the gymnasiums at Cross and Hill. So when Cross is complete, it's going to feel and look like a totally new facility.
Great.
And for that matter, I think Hill House also has a shop, like a wood shop or a construction class or something. That might be something, a little field trip to the other side of the building, just to kind of see things how it all works to get the before and after through the.
come together. Absolutely. Yep.
All right.
Mr. Lamb has a hand raised.
Oh, Mr. Lamb.
Just along those same lines, Frank and I have been working with Justin Harmon to really get the word out about all the projects that have been happening around the district and how we can really push the progress that's happening with all of our facility and project work. And Justin, myself, and Frank have been kind of working on a little project as to how we can help to do that.
That sounds good. I've also had in conversations with reporters in the past have mentioned that there's a story behind every one of these contracts and purchase orders and agreements. Nice little microcosm of the work that happens in the district. And I guess now that I'm thinking about it, and based on what you were saying, is there's also maybe a connection into school programming, you know, for principals of here's a bunch of stuff that's happening in the district, you know, maybe coordinate with facilities. I know that there's safety issues and work has to get done, but if a student's going to be a future plumber or work in the trades, seeing a high-end boiler going in or something could be pretty fascinating. It would have been lost on me, but my engineer kid would have loved it. Ms. Herrera, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just got the sole source letter into my email.
Oh, yeah, that's quick.
I will be forwarding that to the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, moving through the list. Purchase order number 8. Number 8, Cintas. Mr. Elaine.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. This is the request to award the contract for our mops and mats to Cintas through procurement through U.S. Commodities Omnia contract. Apparently, this is a contract that's been renewed, or it's not renewed, but it's awarded to Cintas for the last 10 to 15 years. There was some delay this year. I provided a memo as support and explanation for the delay in bringing it to the F&O board. It had to do with a replacement of the account representative that is ours, and therefore getting the new contract, the new pricing took some time and it was delayed. And then we had, of course, the closing of purchasing for about 5 to 6 weeks, which further delayed and backlogged some of the contract submissions. So we do apologize for that. But Cintas did continue to support us, even though we did not have a contract in place. Like I said, we had the agreement in place for the last 15 years. And so we didn't lose any services during that time. So this is a request to award the contract for $80,000 to Cintas. There was $75,000 spent last year. We had an additional $5,000 because there's an increase in some of the pricing of the products. And it's going to be done through a capital funding source. Do you have any questions?
All right. Thank you. Comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lane. I support this purchase order, and if it's I don't know if it's appropriate, but even give us some heads up next time that, you know, there's a delay, could help us know to what work is being done and that we would expect to see something sooner in the future. I don't know that the finance committee really has a mechanism for that, but it does help me to know that something is in the works, and
yes,
that we're going to come up and pay for it. But thank you very much for providing the memo that you did, or the note that you did, and also for helping the district to not lose time in work that could be done while we were making changes to staff and closing out a budget. So thank you.
Yes, sir. One of the things that we've also been doing as a facilities department, you know, along with discussing this with Tom and his guidance, is that we're going to start working on these contracts much earlier in the year, right? We're going to start working on these things probably in January timeframe to get some of these things in place, if possible. You know, sometimes pricing maybe cannot be honored that long when you're talking to a contractor. But we're going to start with the ones that can early enough in January, start getting these things to the committee even before the end of the fiscal year, so that we don't have this backlog during the summertime.
Thank you.
No problem.
I think one thing that's also I found interesting is I had a conversation with Ms. DeMayo late last week, and she had the information on the number of things that have come through this committee and have gone before the board. And we are, if I remember correctly, Ms. DeMayo, we are already at this time of the year have exceeded all of the agreements and contracts of the entire last fiscal year.
That's correct.
So we have done in a quarter, and we meaning we meaning that there's the people doing the hard work on the other side of making all that happen. But I knew we were having long meetings, but the idea that we did in an entire quarter what we did in an entire year is that's just a lot. So yeah, I know that was an interesting
Ms.
data point.
Mayo is really tired. And I appreciate every minute that she devotes to do all the work on the background.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next thing is the purchase order for Imagine Learning, Mr. Mendia.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for amending the agenda so that I could bring forth to you this purchase order on the amount of $230,471. Imagine Learning is a digital platform to support multilingual learners to develop the areas of language and literacy in both Spanish and English. This platform also will provide the district with critical data in terms of how it is that they are progressing. And it includes 8 site licenses for our for our biliteracy schools. And these site licenses, it means that anyone in the school will be able to use both the English and the Spanish licenses. So this will, in addition, cover about 2,700 students that are enrolled in a school in any other schools, and that it will provide them with the access to the platform.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I think my question was, if I remember correctly on this one, it was a large price increase. And I was just wondering are we using this more? Are we adding extra students? I was just curious as to what was behind that.
So you are correct, Mr. Wilcox, that there was some increase from last year by $41,000. And I think that it was because of the number of students that we are going to be servicing. Our enrollment continues to go up, but I cannot say 100% with certainty that that is the reason why.
Okay. All right. So I might have another question or two, and if I do, I'll send it to the committee and to you and to the superintendent. I was reviewing some of the materials before, but I mean, there's a lot in terms of it. It's very complete with 46 pages for the total thing. So I hadn't finished all of it before the meeting started. So if I have questions, I will be sending them to the committee and also to you and the superintendent. And if I have any, I'll have them, sometime tomorrow.
Thank you.
I don't want to hold you up on anything. Okay. We're into the contracts. The first one is, and these, especially because each of these were probably done with their awarding of contracts, so it has gone through a whole purchasing process, so we might be able to talk about these quickly. And then also when we get into the snow removal ones, because there's a few of those, if we could handle those as a group so that we can just talk about how that works, that might also help save some time. But of course, if there are any questions about any single one of these, I'm happy to take the time. The first one is the contract with eLogic. Mr. Lane.
All right, good evening again, everyone. I'm going to be doing contracts 1 through 9, so just bear with my voice for the next few minutes. First one is going to be for eLogic for our moving. This is for all the moves we do within the district, sometimes inter-school moves or anything that has to be emptied out of a building. This contract traditionally fell within the business office rules area of responsibility and was recently transferred over to facilities. And so we are using the citywide contract that the city has. They have a current renewal for their contract, and we're going to be using $65,000 of that to use for New Haven public school buildings and items that we need to have moved. Any questions?
Comments or questions? All right. Second one with, was it Rutello?
Okay. Moving on to plumbing services for the district. The city also has a citywide contract for Rutello Mechanical Incorporated. So that's
You're muted. You just switched over. There you go.
All right. So for Rutello Mechanical, citywide contract again, awarded to them through that procurement process for $100,000 to be our on-call plumbing contractor for the district.
All right. Comments or questions? I had none, and looks like 3 and 4 are with the same vendor.
Yes, I'm going to do my best to not create a confusion with these two. So the first one, which is going to be the larger mechanical, this was a contract that was awarded to cross. It was an interesting one we did to cross the fiscal year in order to provide a bridge for services over the summertime for large mechanical, meaning that larger HVAC systems for the cooling over the summer. That was awarded from June 30th to September 30th of 2023. There were still funds that were left over at the end of that time. And so it was requested that we bring this to the board and request to extend that agreement to the end of this current fiscal year, which is June 2024. So this is going to be extended from October 1st to June 30th, 2024 for the remainder of the balance of this money that's left over.
All right.
I hope that was clear enough.
Okay, and number 4 is their second one is.
All right, fantastic. And this is our actual normal for our smaller systems. This is our normal HVAC contract on call with Bovair for the fiscal year of 2024.
All right, comments or questions? I had none. So Concrete Creations is number 5.
That was easier than I thought. Okay, Concrete Creations for $25,000. Concrete Creations, this is a renewal for them. This is a 4 of 5. This contractor is used for us to rent equipment that we don't currently own ourselves, things like lifts, large equipment that we would need on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, just clarification. I believe this contract uses the word piggyback. So is the understanding of that is that the city has an agreement and we're adding on to its agreement our kind of services and funding?
That is correct. It is a term that the city likes to use for piggybacking, yes. But basically there's a citywide contract and we're using basically the terms of that contract and awarding ourselves a portion to use for the New Haven Public Schools.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, numbers 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all part of the same thing, which is snow removal services. So, and that's with Cheapscapes, Amazon Landscaping, M&M Total Construction, and Tim's Enterprises.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. This contract went out for rebidding this year. We got basically the same vendors that bid on the contract. It was awarded to 4 vendors based on the pricing they provided. Each school is listed as a zone and they bid on the zones. They may bid on 1, they may bid on all 47 buildings. They may bid on 10, but depending on who bids on what zones, we take a look at that zone and whoever gives us the best pricing for that zone gets awarded that particular zone. So that's why we have 4 particular vendors that are here and it's broken up between the zones that they're going to cover. The contract for this year is a total of $450,000 between all 4 vendors. And the way that we provided the breakup in terms of the amounts for each particular vendor is we calculated what it would cost to do one category of storm per school. Took a look at that total, figured out what the percentage of the vendor for each zone would cost us there, and then awarded that percentage based off the $450,000, which is how we broke it up and how we came to the number for each particular vendor. But the total between the 4 is the $450,000 for the year for snow removal for the district. It was $400,000 last year. There's an increase put in for this year for increased costs, labor and services, because last year was renewal. We hadn't had a new contract in about 3 years, and we knew there was going to be a cost increase on the contract itself.
All right. Comments or questions on this? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, 2 questions. To your last point, I had a question because it said that all the new agreements had a cost increase of 12.5%. So I was trying to figure out where that came from. What you're saying is the district determined like an overall increase in the budget and then determined what award amount you were going to give for each vendor. Like, how did the 12.5 increase come? Was this something that each vendor proposed, or this is what we said it will provide?
This is what we said we would provide as an increase. And then the awarding was just based off the total amount. So we decided that this year we will put it out for $450,000. That was the bid cap that we put out for the bid. It wasn't presented to the public, but that was the number we chose to budget for the year. And then based on the calculations, I kind of gave a quick explanation on earlier on. That's how we broke up the $450,000 for each vendor. Of course, it is a not to exceed amount. It depends on the snowfall and things of that nature. So it's just how we broke it up between each vendor as to how much you're going to get up to $450,000. But the $450 is something that we decided as a district that we're going to put towards the budget for the snow removal.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
No problem.
And my second question is,
yes.
I was missing the details for the documentation. Is this, are we paying by inch or do we pay by storm?
We pay by categories of inches. So there's a category for each, for like, let's say 1 to 2 inches, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and then anything above 12. And there's a pricing that we put in for the bid table for that. So they provide us pricing based on those categories for each zone.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
And just 2 things. One is you can also go to the city's purchasing department, the bonfire site, and you can see closed bids that has the documentation that the vendors actually were looking at. Obviously, we could also ask staff to provide it to us as well. So if but that's I sometimes I'll go check something out there.
I have to call you for it for you.
Yeah, it's right off the purchasing, and it's the bonfire site. And then I'll just just express my opinion here. Personally, I'm hoping that we don't spend $1 of this money on snow removal because we just don't have any snow this year. I would be fine with that. I suppose a day or 2 for the kids to play in the snow, but
right.
I've lived here for 25 years, and I still am not a fan.
Yes.
Snow should be something you go visit.
And just for everyone's awareness, we do have a small team of people that is our snow crew. We have 4, and they're basically building managers, right? So they already have a regular job they do every single day. But there's, they can opt into this particular program where the day of we can kind of call them at 4 in the morning so they can kind of do a few of the schools before they start their shift in order to reduce the cost of the snow removal. But we do award all the zones to the vendor as a backup, but we do have the right to use our own people at any point in time as part of this contract. It just matters whether or not the vehicles are serviceable at that time and working. Do we have enough of the salt and the sand mix, and whether there's people available to actually do the job.
Great, thank you.
I think that's great because we also sometimes hear from people if there's delays in this and parking lots are a little unsafe or icy. So it's good to know that there's a mechanism there to, we're not just waiting on the vendors who might be dealing with multiple locations. Okay, so don't even know where we are now. Okay, number 10 is a contract award to Southport Contracting. This one's
So
listed
this is
Finelli.
sorry, so this is a contract extension. This contract was originally from the 22-23 fiscal year, awarded to Southport for the new boilers at Cross High School. We had a couple of delivery issues, just installed that kind of pushed us behind. All those have been resolved, but we just need to move this to the 23-24 year. Numbers are already encumbered under ESSER.
Okay, and this does not create, so this is a situation where this is not a true multi-year contract. This is just a contract that's bridging a fiscal year.
Yes, it was a single contract we anticipated them to be done in June, but because of the setbacks in delivery, we have to move it to this year.
And what's the anticipated time now?
We're done. No, we're completed.
Oh, okay. I
Yep.
see. Okay, so this was just to continue. I'm understanding now.
Yep.
This is the work's done, and this is finishing it all out and final invoices and all that. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay. Now we'll move into the change orders. The first one is one with Tucker Mechanical. Mr. Elaine.
Thank you again, Mr. Wilcox. All right, Tucker Mechanical provides HVA service for all of our chiller and heating equipment. We are now rolling into the heating season. As many of you are aware, we had lots of problems over the summer, which exhausted a large portion of the money that's allocated for HVAC services. We are now in the heating season, and we're now approaching the same type of challenges and actually, using the vendor quite a bit along with our internal staff. This is a change order to increase the contract amount by $40,000, which is 20%, to cover the additional load and costs for the heating and the cooling season we've experienced so far.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for this? Hearing and seeing none. I had none either. We'll go to the second change order, which is change order 1 with Auto Parts and Services.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. We traditionally had 2 vendors to manage our fleet, the services for our fleet vehicles. There's 2 contracts, both of them for $37,500. One of the vendors lost their ability to do services with the city last year for reasons that I guess I need to leave that wherever that lies, but the vendor was no longer qualified. We're currently requesting to increase this contract by 20% so that we can continue servicing of the vehicles while we rebid the second contract to find a second vendor for fleet maintenance.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, 2 questions. One is, it sounds like this already happened, or this happened within it sounds like this has come before us before. Is this the same scenario and vendor, or is this a new vendor and scenario where someone is no longer in contract with the city?
It's the same situation, Dr. Yarbrough, and I guess the discussion was as some of us, I've only been here for a few months, and my staff has only been here, approximately about a year for ABM staff, and so the question is, what do we do with a situation like this? Can we take the second contract and just award it to the first vendor since they've already been awarded it? Well, will the board pass that? Do we put it out to rebid right now? There's questions on how we were going to approach this particular contract, which created some of the delay along with some of the other things we discussed earlier, like the purchasing closeout, things of that nature, and all the contracts we had to put out to bid. But it is the same scenario. That's why you've heard it again. We're just now actually putting it out to bid, and we've been servicing the vehicles and preparing for snow removal. And we have currently 9 vehicles that are considered junk, 2 more vehicles that are currently down. We're working with the city and Michael Gormany to update our status list and see if we get new vehicles. But in the meantime, we've been aggressively servicing the vehicles to make sure they're ready for the season. And we've already pretty much run to the end with this one particular contractor. And we're not done with the rebidding process for the second contract. So we're requesting just an additional monies here to get us through until we can bridge that.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
And my second question is on the amount requested. I think the amount requested is the $7,500.
That's correct.
for the documentation, it says that I guess the amount increase that is needed maybe is 11,250. So my question is, does the documentation say what you needed to say? Does the amount increase need to be 11,250 versus the 7,500?
No, it's 7,500. I'm not sure where you're seeing the 11,000.
The second to last page.
Yes, that was probably left over from a previous document that was put in. Probably a template they were using. But yes, the amount is 7,500. So please let the record show that number that's in section 23 of the change order document, 11,250 should be 7,500.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Neville.
And I would just request that gets corrected and this information reposted, just because I do know we have board members that'll review this information.
Yes, sir.
Or potentially review it, in which case we want it to be accurate. All right. And now we have two things connected to the Clean School Bus Rebates Program certification. I assume this is Mr. Lamb?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So these are our two documents that need signatures. The document one certifies that the New Haven Public Schools Board of Education is being made aware that we're actively submitting an application. And the second one document certifies that the Board of Education has approval or is providing approval to the superintendent to apply. These are both requirements of the rebate program and would be submitted with First Student's application on our behalf.
Okay, comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lamb and the district. I still need to go through the documentation and read what's there, so the answers may be there. So yes, I still want to do that. One part that stands out to me is that the second part, which says we are applying through First Student as our transportation contractor for 2023 Clean Bus Rebate Program funding for New Haven Public Schools on behalf of the district. I'm not sure how the funding works, but my question is, to what are we obligating ourselves if we receive this award and we're applying for it through the First Student Transportation Company, because we also have a transportation bid process coming up or going on now?
So we are not tied to these vehicles. The vehicles are actually awarded to First Student to provide services to New Haven. Should First Student not receive the grant award, or should they not receive the RFP award, the buses are non-transferable. So they would not be able to be given to another provider or to the city of New Haven. It is a bus exchange grant. So you have to have buses in order to be able to apply for the grant. And because the district does not have or manage its own transportation services and own actual vehicles, we are not eligible to apply. So it has to come from our provider.
Okay, thank you. I think this timing is not going to work for the board. So I would be interested in knowing just how we're going to navigate this. My second question is, this is a rebate program. So they're not giving money to purchase buses, but they're giving money to like they're offering a rebate on buses that are purchased, or how does that piece work? And
So
it
actually is the previous grants were designed where you create your budget, you create your infrastructure design, and you come up with the plan before you apply. This is just the traverse of that, where they give you the money and then you have to come up with the plan and everything after you're awarded.
Okay, so which one is this? This one is.
This is the latter. This is where as a rebate, they would give us the award of the grant, and then we would have to determine how we would use the funds that were given to purchase not only the buses but also the infrastructure.
Okay. And a contractor has to make that purchase. The district cannot.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. My last question is just on the timing of this. What are the deadlines for us to submit and work things out on the district's end?
First student has to have the application in by January 31st.
Okay, and what is our internal deadline? Do we? I mean, is it already written basically, and first student just has to submit it, or do we need to get it?
No, they need to submit the application. They do the entire application. This is only giving them the authority to do it.
So
because
it hasn't been done. Maybe we need to make a
No.
decision to, let's say, authorize them to do it if we want that to happen.
Correct.
By what month do we need to make a decision to authorize them if we want this done?
As soon as possible.
If I may, that's what these two items are, is authorizing the district to work with first student to pursue this.
Got it.
So that
yes.
is now.
Okay.
Did you have other questions on this, Dr. Yarbrough?
I mean, I do, but I think it's a different agenda item, right? Which is, yeah, I think it's a different agenda item. I mean, I don't know what to do with this. I mean, the contracts, the information is just provided today in terms of these rebates. Well, I guess the next step is for it to go forward to the board so the board can have a conversation around what it wants to do. I mean, it doesn't need to get held up here.
So if I may, I don't want to cut you off, Dr. Yarbrough.
No, I'm finished. I'm just thinking out loud. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I think one thing that'll be helpful, Mr. Lamb, is a brief memo that just kind of says that this is what this is for. And then also in that memo, I would provide the link because I went and looked it up, and there's a 45-page, 33-page document that outlines the program eligibility for the 2023 Clean School Bus Rebates Program. There's a guide and associated information.
Yes, I can certainly attach the link to the program guide.
Yeah, and so that if people want to get into the details of this, then they'll have the information there that this. So I did go in and look, and it does say, similar to how the things we did in the special meeting last week, if you're going to apply for this funding, this is a hoop you have to jump through. And this is what it looks like. It, provides the sample of what the certifications should say, et cetera. And then I also think
I'm sorry, but
I also think to Dr. Yarbrough's point that he was making there is I mean, my understanding of this, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong. If the board wants to pursue this funding and we do to the point that we have a climate resolution that we pass that says we want to move towards clean bus fleet. So if the board wants to do this, this is the mechanism. And these are the, it's the issue here is the board chose not to enter into a longer term contract with the current vendor, which would have covered this for several more years. The danger here is we're helping First Student get buses that we won't use if we don't use their services moving forward. But in the Clean School Bus Rebates Program Guide, they do talk about that. And First Student will have to use it for other school districts in the state. So the buses aren't going to waste. They'll just be used by another public school system if we don't enter into a longer term agreement with them. So, but I think just having kind of a, if this, some that just lays out, if you approve this, this is what'll happen. If you don't approve it, then this is what'll happen. So that just to make it easier for any further discussions.
But
so
we
I
also
think
do retain the right to back out of this at any time. So even if we move through the process and are awarded, we still retain the right to say that we're going to decline the grant and not proceed. My fear is that we're not going to give First Student enough time to be able to put together the application package, which is substantial because they have to provide information on which buses they're going to be replacing, along with history. There's a significant amount of documentation that First Student needs to put together for the application.
So I think that's a nice thing to have in the memo because that also would allay, or at least in my mind, for me, it alleviates concerns about what are we going to get out of this if we don't continue on with their services once we go through the RFP process. So to be able to say that the board at that point could say, no, we're not, if it's clear at that time, but we're not going to be using their services, then this sounds like the happy medium of if they apply for this to be the service provider, this might work out and furthers our climate goals. And if we go a different direction, we're not encumbered financially, or we don't have to work with them any further on this. Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you. So just listening as we're talking through this, it sounds like there's no loss here in terms of there's no work that the district is doing in agreeing to this because First Student does the work. And it also sounds like I think I heard two things. Well, actually, I don't know if these two things will work, if they're actually possible, that the district can choose not to, if we're awarded this rebate, I think I heard that we can choose not to accept it. But I think I heard also that if we're awarded this rebate and First Student purchase these buses, that they can then use those buses in a different district if they're not made the award. So is that true? Like how would that work? Because my thought was if they, it's a lot of work that they're going to put in to apply for this grant, but they can still use the buses even if they don't use them with NHPS. I know there are other implications. Well, anyway, yes. Is that true, or how can
That
both
is correct. That is correct. They have to use them within their region.
Right now but that's with the district accepting the reward if granted, accepting the award if granted.
we don't accept the award. First Student does, because the grant application is actually they're the ones that are applying for the grant.
Okay, so why are we needed? So they need us to be in a district that agrees to clean transport.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's a region, because what the EPA does is they look at the entire region and they say which priority schools we are considered a priority school school district because of who we are and the type of population that we serve. They look at the priority school districts and they say, this is how many buses we will allot to this region. And we are only a part of that. So if First Student is awarded buses for the New Haven contract, then, and we elect not to utilize those vehicles through First Student has the right to move those vehicles to another school district within their region.
Okay. And where do we stand in terms of the state grant? Do they still consider that award was made to New Haven, to our district, or they consider the award was made to First Student? Like, are we eligible to apply again later, or
the award was made to First Student? So there will be other rounds for bus electrification. This is this award would only be associated with this round.
Okay, understood. Okay. All right. I mean, so for that, I support moving this forward to the board. And I think that in terms of First Student competing in a transportation grant award for the district, that they were able to secure this electrification award, it would give them an advantage. It would give them a leg up in terms of competing for our energy goals. So I recognize that piece. So Mr. Wilcox, I don't see a reason, not to. I see a reason to favorably, move this forward for the board.
Just a point of clarification. This is a lottery grant. It's not a competitive grant.
What does that mean?
So a lottery is basically they're pulling names out of a hat. There's no, it's not based on a competitive application. If you are eligible, you're put into a number system and it's a random choice.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, if you meet the qualifications and have everything in, then you're eligible and approved, and then you can. So I do think that a memo that gives people the link to the full program description. If people want to really dig into it, they'll have that information. But then also that just kind of outlines why we're doing this, what's in it for us, what the implications are. I would assume also, I mean, I guess a question I might have, and it's not one that I have today to keep this from moving forward, but just what implications there might be when it comes time to do the transportation contract. Presumably there'd be some advantageous pricing or something in this. I'm just curious how that piece would work. Like, let's just assume 5 buses.
So there is a minimum amount of buses that they have to apply for.
Mm-hmm.
For contractors like First Student, if my memory is correct, I believe it's 25 buses.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you
All
for
right.
your work.
I would be happy, and I'm assuming the committee would be as well, to take a look at the draft of the memo, if it's able to be done before, Thursday or Friday, for the posting deadline on Friday. I would certainly make time to help this, because it might save some time in a meeting. So I'm always interested in that. So if that's doable, I invite you to send to the committee for comment the draft.
I will work on this as soon as possible and get a draft to Dr. Negron so we can make a recommendation to the board.
Thank you so much. Okay, so what I would like to do is make a motion, and that is I move that we send to the full board with a recommendation to approve the 2 abstracts, the 29 agreements, the 9 purchase orders, because 1 was added, the 10 contracts, the 2 change orders, and this bus program certification. The 2 bus program certifications.
And
is there a second?
Yes. Second.
All right, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
And I'll just say that if anything does come up, or if there's anything connected to the bus rebates program, and I can send to the committee the link to the program information. If there's any questions, please let's use this week to try to get the answers before the meeting on Monday. So we'll go ahead and vote. Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes.
President Rivera?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Looking at the discussion items, only thing on Series 3000 is I will be sending to the committee and several other people, including the superintendent, where some of these open policies are that are out there, just so that we could bring some of these before the board to vote to the committee so we can get it onto governance. An example of this is there's several information security policies. There's also some are probably need minimal work, if any, but some might need more work. I kind of want to get the ones out the door that we can get out the door so we can save time for the ones that need more work. So I will do that this week and request that we move forward with those. And then the final thing is a discussion item is a timeline update on the transportation contract. Mr. Lamb?
I can be very brief with this. Just have a 1 slider to put up on the screen. So in conversations with Dr. Negron and with transportation staff and several other stakeholders, developed this kind of timeline that goes through the RFP process from posting with the city of New Haven all the way through Board of Aldermen approval. Some of these dates will may flex a little bit depending upon what happens with the city of New Haven posting and with meeting schedules related after January, which have not yet been posted, especially for the Board of Aldermen. But we're looking at November 20th for the document to be posted with the city of New Haven. December 4th, with intent to submit proposal due from prospective contractors. December 8th for first round of questions. December 15th for answers to those questions to be posted with New Haven Purchasing. Final round of questions on January 5th, due from contractors. On January 12th, we will respond to those questions. January 19th would be the submission date for contractor proposals to be due into the city of New Haven Purchasing. We will, at that time, myself and the Director of Transportation will level all of the responses, and the RFP committee will be convened to begin the review process and scoring. On February 2nd, a best and final pricing will be requested from contractors that are selected as finalists. And then there'll be a final review and scoring of proposals with the RFP committee. Additionally, there'll be a to be determined memo presentation to Finance and Operations Committee and to the Board of Education in February, with a to be determined Board of Aldermen review and contract drafting process to begin in the beginning of March. So this is a tentative timeline for getting the RFP process to completion.
All right, comments or questions? Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for working with the team to put that together. Mr. Wilcox, I recommend that be brought before the board just for review, comment, input. Mr. Lamb, I have two questions. One is for the participation of the potential contractors who want to bid on this. Does the timeline give people enough time to participate and put together a competitive bid given the holidays? Because I think
Absolutely.
we're with Thanksgiving and then it's the new year.
From conversations I've had with several folks, what I'm being told is on average it takes about 10 days to put together a proposal.
The transportation?
Correct.
And is that our experience last time that people were able to get it in?
I don't have those dates exactly in front of me,
Okay.
but everyone was able to turn around a substantial proposal relatively quickly.
Okay, thank you. And my question on the timeline on the back end, if we were to switch vendors or do something different from going with the full vendor for everything, given the agreement date, I think you had March in terms of when it would go before the Board of Alders, does that give the district enough time to transition a new contractor? Because before I think it came up just around the timing of this and starting summer school or starting the new school year. What are our thoughts on the timing?
The timing is much better than it was last year, but even with a new contract and a new provider, 3.5 months should be ample time.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the last question, will you come back before us and talk about what's going to be, like how this new RFP will be structured in terms of if anything's going to be broken out and just how, what the contractors will make a bid for, whether it be the whole district, whether it be special education, transportation.
So I'll have a conversation with Dr. Negron on that, and we'll get back to you.
Okay. Last comment is, I don't know if it's possible, and I know we have in the past worked with transportation professionals who have gone through this bidding process before. For the food bidding process, one of the things that stood out to me is that the district awards to, I think the vendors have to say like what full capacity they could do, and then the district chooses how much to award either one vendor or various vendors for a certain ingredient or a certain provider. And I would be interested in that, whether or not that's an option for us, whether we just, how we decide to break up or keep together all of our transportation needs. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if vendors or contractors would like it, if it's legal, but it stands out to me as something that the food department does that's interesting. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Wilcox, for me.
So yeah, I as far as the slide goes, I just two things related to the dates on the slide. we'll know we already know what the dates will be for the F&O meetings and the board meetings for the month of February. So while understanding that there might be time needed, I might pick some meetings, as a target, and because it connects to my second point is, I am firmly of the belief that this contract has to be nailed down and decisions made before the district's budget request goes to the mayor and the alders. So heard extreme numbers of concerns from alders the previous contract with the board's decisions. I just want to make sure that they can see that everything is settled, nailed down, and that's not an open-ended question by the time they start looking at the full budget package. So I would also then take a look at what you're looking at for Ms. Hannon's and the superintendent's looking at for the overall budget requests. That tends to be, I think, in March, so it seems to fit your timeline well. But just, I think that has to be something that gets taken care of. And then the second thing, something I'll just remind us all, we did use a transportation consultant to create this route contract. So that work is still good since it was just done last year. So I'm assuming that's what's really behind. I would assume the bulk of the work is done for the RFP documents that are going to go out there, because we already have an up-to-date contract. RFP materials that also serves as the contract for moving forward. And then the final thing I'll mention, and this because this predates you, Dr. Negron, is the district put out before in two pieces, the general transportation and then the special education transportation. And there was, all the building leaders I talked to and with Jack and others, there was extreme worries with that dual model. And then also on the board side, it created issues where one vendor was saying, if we have both contracts, we'll provide some discounts because we save administrative overhead, and other ones didn't. My recommendation would be to really just nail down, is there a reason to split it up? It did not seem to result in any cost savings. It would have cost more in the last time around. And so that just is one of those things that evens the playing field and gets the district what it wants. I think it was tried to see if it would save money. It wasn't going to. And then it brought to light all sorts of issues from building leaders and so on. So I would just take a good look at that. It might solve a couple issues if you just make a decision as to this is the goal. Dr. Yarba?
Yes, 2 points. The other side of breaking up the contract was whether or not we can get a vendor in here with some experience so that we're not completely dependent on one contractor for everything. And the question is like, what is the cost of that? Both financial cost, but also the cost to the experience that the district has, both family and staff and students. The other question is around timeline, and this might be for you, Mr. Lamb, which is, when do we, for the clean school bus rebate, is there an expected date where they would deliver a response? And it also might be useful to, when we talk about this with the board, to talk about the other rounds, the other potential rounds of this rebate program or clean school bus program that comes forward. Because I imagine, because we got it last time, that we're going to get one contractor giving us multiple prices based on whether or not the rebate is granted. And so I'm anticipating some complexity or at least some variation in what someone may say. If you go with this, then we can offer you this. You know, I think it's going to come up, at least in our questions, in terms of whether or not we decide to award to one contractor versus another. So do you know when has the state said when they expect to notify applicants as to whether or not they've been awarded a rebate?
I do not have that information in front of me, but I believe it was sometime in April.
Okay.
Their documentation, just as a point of information, their documentation, and says it's within, you're going to be notified of your selection status within approximately 60 days of the application deadline. And I'm not seeing the award date listed, but you'll know within 60 days if you're moving on to the next part of the process, at least.
Okay. It might be helpful if we had kind of that timeline in front of us from the state about all their award cycles, just as we make decisions to help clarify things. Thanks again to you and your team for putting together a timeline and thinking thoughtfully about this.
All right. Thank you. To follow up on Dr. Yarborough's, one of his first things he said is, yes, this obviously should, if this could be in the board packets, the final version of this in the board packets, that would be good, just as information there. I think I told them we would track that information down in this meeting, and we have, so. I think that would be good to get some clarification for everybody. We've reached the end of the agenda. If there's nothing else, I'd love a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it.
Second. I was trying to unmute. Sorry.
Okay. President Rivera, how do you vote?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. Dr. Yarborough, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for these long meetings. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.